got this thing wrapped up. It's going home this week. Give you guys a quick walk around of it. Some of the build specs. 2003 Tacoma with a 3.4 liter and a auto transmission. It's got a Northwestfab doubler in it. Front axle is a 05 Super Duty, 14 bolt in the back, 2.5 Fox coilovers in the front, leaf sprung in the back, some Chevy 63s, Nitto 40s, KMC grenade crawls, PSC hydro assist. The customer is going to end up finishing it off with some bumpers and sliders. Starting off at the front end, we've got a 4-wheel underground 3-link kit with a 05 Super Duty front axle. The hubs are re-drilled to 8 on 6.5 to match the back. It's got 1550 U-joints in the front axle shafts. Got 4 underground ram guard, weld-on steering knuckles. These things are actually pretty interesting. The ram actually ties into the knuckle itself instead of your standard just clamp onto the tie rod. This is an 8-inch, 1.75-inch PSC ram. The way that this is designed, it actually doesn't use the entire throw of the ram. So you can get a full turning radius with about 7 inches of throw. Talk about this 4 underground kit a little bit. The way that it's designed, it reuses the upper radius arm mounts. So you trim off the bottom radius arm mounts on both sides, keeping the top, and then it reuses the factory style bushings, and then a Summit Racing Heim on the back. Kit comes with the axle truss. It's actually 3 pieces, so you've got 1 piece, 2 piece right here, and then the far passenger side. I ended up modifying, or actually making, a new truss for this side. The original one actually had a bracket. You can look on Brian's website, but it had a plate that comes off the top of this diff cover, and then it actually bolted through with 3 bolts to the truss. Try to get a little bit lower ride height out of this, so I actually just redesigned just this one section that goes over the diff cover. Ended up shrinking it up as low as I could go so it sits directly on top, and it's about 1.25 inches lower, so I was able to get the ride height a little bit lower and get a little bit more up travel out of it. The kit has these 2 plug welds in the factory truss as well. That actually gets plug welded to this casting, and the original truss doesn't get welded to the cast at all around here. I ended up adding a little bit tighter tolerances so I can get a little bit of weld all the way around the cast. And then I added a couple plug welds. It's actually right underneath the upper link mount, similar to these. It just gets plug welded to the top of the axle housing. Add a little more strength since I got rid of these bolts that I got through bolted to give that upper link mount a little bit more support. Since I lowered this truss about 1.25 inches, ended up having to remake the upper link mount. It's basically just a mirrored image, just 1.25 inches taller, same height that I took off the top of the truss, keep all the geometry the same. Was actually able to still use the supplied gussets on the side, which same thing on this side. Definitely got a unique panhard setup on this. So this uses a square rectangular panhard compared to your typical just, 1.5 inch quarter wall. It's actually 2 half-inch pieces of plate that are formed and then welded together on both sides. Got a threaded end on one with just a 7/8 time. It is offset to get around the oil pan, a little bit extra clearance there, and then to offset it to get around the differential. Northwestfab Eco Crawler. Find a factory J shift transfer case, 1350 CV in the back, 1350 drive shaft on the front. Got the Trident shifters on the inside. Front range cross member. We are waiting on the 4 underground kit for his new cross member. So this is going to be removed here probably in the next month or so. Going to add the 4 underground kit that attaches to your lower link mounts and gives a full skid going all the way forward. Got the Northwestfab Trident shifters in here. Just got your 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, your high-low for your rear case, your factory case, and then your doubler right here, just high-low. With it in low, so double low, with 5/38 and the first gear of this transmission, we're sitting right around maybe a little bit less than 100 to 1, maybe about 98 to 1. Like I said before, came up with my own towers for this, kind of a hybrid design. Plate upper, and then you just attach some 1.5 inch. I use quarter walls. Definitely overkill, but I've got plenty of it laying around. Fairly simple, pretty quick to make. Got threaded inserts on each side with a top cap that just gets bolted on, so you can come up with a tower that goes across. There's not one on this yet. Customer's putting a supercharger on it, so not going to waste time building a crossbar that's probably not going to fit with the supercharger on. So we'll wait till that gets installed and then come up with a crossbar to get across there. Pretty simple under here though. PSC 1200X pump, PSC reservoir. It's definitely tight trying to squeeze this thing in there. It won't fit right here. So made this bracket, actually ties into 2 factory bolt holes right there. And then it also gets bolted on the bottom. So it's definitely sturdy. Drops down to the PSC pump with their 4.5 inch Tacoma pulley. Had to add a little spacer on the back side. I think it's about 200 thousandths. Keeps the pulley and everything lined up. Do have to trim off a mounting tab from the airbox underneath just to give this a little bit more room to drop down, because there's not a ton of room between the hood and the top of this. And a ton of questions about what master I'm running on this. So this is a Willwood. It's got an 1 1/16 bore with the 2-bolt Coma booster, factory one that came on the truck. Could have swapped it to a 4-bolt and probably fit like an 1.5 inch Chevy master cylinder. I wanted to give this a shot, see how it felt, and see if we can adapt this over. So this is actually a direct bolt-on replacement. The bolt pattern is the same between this new master and pretty much a vast majority of your 2-bolt master cylinders. They're all like a standard 3.2 inch center to center. It's what this booster is as well. So bolts right up. I did replace or cut a new gasket and just had to adapt over a push rod from this master to the booster. Had it turned down, seals into the factory seal in the booster, so there's not a big vacuum leak or anything like that. I was pleasantly surprised with the inch and 16th master. Lock them up with ease. I actually like the pedal fill of this master over my second gen. My second gen's got a Dodge master. It's got an 1.25 inch bore. This pedal fill is a lot firmer than that one. That one will lock them up as well, but this one's definitely a lot firmer. But yeah, pleasantly surprised. Would definitely run this thing again. But yeah, if you have a 4-bolt booster, it makes it a little bit easier. You can run just an adapter from a 4-bolt to a 2-bolt, and then you can pretty much run whatever bore diameter you want. Most time I'll throw on like an 1.5 inch newer, maybe like 2001 Chevy Master. But for something with a 2-bolt, this is a great solution, and there are zero complaints on this. A little bit more on the brake setup. Had to make room for the towers to come through, so ended up removing the ABS module. The 4 lines used to run across right here in these clips. I gutted all that stuff out, made it pretty much just like a traditional setup. So you got your front and rear ports coming out of the master. One runs across to your front, able to reuse one of these lines that came through from the factory, change the bends on it a little bit, and it just routes down to this side. And then the other port of the master just shoots off to the back. Back setup's pretty simple. It's just a factory disc brake, 14-bolt, 538s, an ARB, obviously Yukon cover, Chevy 63 swap. Got Fox 2.5 shocks with the adjusters, the 2.0 Fox bumps to match the front. Got a TK1 sway bar. Things are nice. The billet ends. It's the King of the Hammer bar, but it's super stable, no body roll. All the brake lines are adapted over to AN on this thing. Stainless brake line going across the top. One line coming down, feeding the rear brake line, vent line, and ARB hose going up there. It's a 4-inch shackle. Trying to keep the ride height fairly low. Probably settle another 1/2 inch or so when these things break in. Made these bolt-on risers for the U-bolt plates. This is about as low as I can go to get these bumps down as far as we can. It's about 6 inches of travel, 6.5 inches of travel in the back right now. And with these, you can adjust the height. Let's say for some reason you did want to limit it. Just make a new riser. This one's about 1 inch. Bolts right on to your U-bolt plate. So if we want to adjust the bump zone on this thing, I can just make a taller or shorter pad for that. But right now we're pretty solid with the 6.5 inches up travel. Be sitting about 6 when this whole thing settles down. This front is just temporary, just a little support, keep the frame rails from moving around since that factory cross member got cut off. Especially till customer gets some bumpers on it, keep everything in where it's supposed to be. If I didn't mention it before, wheelbase on this is 117. Drives great, goes down the road 80 just fine, one hand on the wheel.